the Montreal Canadiens select.
The Montreal Canadiens are proud to select
Jesperi Kotkaniemi,
Noah Jules, Ryan Poehling,
Cole Caulfield.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to History in the Making, the official podcast of the Montreal Canadiens, focused on the future of the most storied franchise in pro sports. History in the Making is brought to you by Tricolore Sport, Montreal's official team store. From lifestyle brands to jerseys and beyond, Tricolore Sport has a style for every sports fan in your life. Head to tricoloresport.com right now and use coupon code HistoryCH10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Visit tricoloresport.com today. We'll be joined a little later by our guest, OHL champion and Canadiens prospect Cam Hillis. But first, as per usual, we're going to take a quick look around the world of Canadiens prospects to see who's doing well, who's not doing as well, and who is being dominant. And trust me, this week we're going to be using that word a lot. Before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to not just the frontline workers who we all know are doing an amazing job right now considering the circumstances. But everyone who's dealing with a hard time. We all know this is difficult. You're allowed to not feel great. And listen, I understand if you're having a hard time right now. Hockey is back and that's great. It's fantastic for us. It's a necessary distraction. But if you are having a hard time, reach out to me on Twitter. My direct messages are always open. I won't have the solutions, but I promise I will listen to you. Now, the weekly wrap up. There's this one guy I keep naming every single week, Sean Farrell. And I'm going to keep naming him until he stops dominating. But right now, still dominant. 17 games played, 10 goals, 22 assists. One of the most interesting aspects is he's finding a lot of chemistry with a top prospect for the next draft, Matthew Coronado. And to me, that shows that Farrell can play with elite talent. It's not necessarily a matter of one boosting the other up. We saw that with Caulfield and Hughes. It's a matter of whether or not you can click with that high-end player, whether or not you can execute at a high-end speed. So there's something to be said to be playing with talented players. It's not hard. It's not easy. You just need a certain type of player to be able to adapt to elite talent. And Farrell so far has been doing fantastic. We'll see what happens when he takes the next step. And we're actually going to get into that in the mailbag a little later. But so far, so great for Farrell. Up next, we have Cole Caulfield. Here's an update on him. Still dominant. He's playing at above a point per game average, which is pretty much as good as you can expect in the NCAA. Let's keep in mind, it's a low scoring league. It's not somewhere where you're going to get 2 points per game. But what I think is very important in Caulfield's development is his complete game. You're seeing him back check. You're seeing him play, anticipating the play a lot better, a defensive focus, a lot more playmaking. That's not to say that his playmaking was bad, but you see him open up a lot of ice for his teammates this year. So all in all, I love the development curve for Cole Caulfield. I think he's developing into an all-around player. And we know that's the key to making the NHL. And Caulfield said it himself. He won't make the NHL by just being a goal scorer. I mean, you could, but you're not going to get the advantage of having the trust of your coach. That to transition seamlessly into the NHL, you need to have that well-rounded game. And that's something that Caulfield's working on. It's something he's well aware that he needs to work on. And it'll help him in his transition to the NHL. That to me is actually more important than the goals. Now, don't get me wrong. Love the goals, keep the goals going. But right now we're seeing Caulfield evolve into a complete player. And that to me, quite exciting. Our next two prospects we're going to take a look at playing on the same team. First one, Jordan Harris, defenseman. Still dominant. 5 goals, 5 assists in 11 games. Ridiculous production at his level. Someone was asking me on Twitter the other day, I think they mentioned, I believe it was Torrey Krug, that had the same type of offensive output in the NCAA. And, or no, sorry. It was Cale Makar. My bad. Completely different player. But I don't expect him to keep it up. And I don't necessarily expect him to become a Cale Makar because it's not fair to put that type of pressure on a prospect like Jordan Harris. Now, here's what I will say. And it's not fair to Cale Makar either, right? So let's forget the comparables for a minute because that's always difficult. What I do see in Jordan Harris is, again, a player that's taking care of his zone before he's worrying about the other zone. And once you do that, the offense tends to flow a little bit better. So we're seeing Jordan Harris evolve into, again, a well-rounded player. And I feel like I have him a little higher on the prospect list than most people. I kind of throw him in there. I lump him in there with the Norlanders and the Romanovs and also the Strubles of the world as the top Canadiens defensive prospects. I really think Jordan Harris has a significant chance to make a big impact in the NHL. We're going to move a little further down the pairings. We're going to stay in the same team, Northeastern. Jaden Struble, guess what? Still dominant. 2 goals, 8 assists in 11 games. Praise from what I'm hearing. I talked to a lot of guys in the college ranks, not just as coach, and they're saying he's got that aggressive yet smart style of play. So he'll attack the rush, which I love seeing. It takes a certain level of trust with the coach to allow you to attack the rush. And what I mean by that is, instead of collapsing at the blue line, we talk about gap control. It's a buzzword, right? So it's how much space you're leaving at the blue line to be effective, whether or not you're intercepting a pass or you're trying to actually stop the player. Now, Struble throws that game plan completely out the window. He attacks the rush, and offensive players often don't expect that. Now, it's a high risk play in the sense that if you miss, you're going to look really bad, but it's absolutely the best way to not defend. You don't want to spend time defending. You want to prevent time defending. And that's what Struble, I think, does so well. And the offense obviously is just extra goodness on top of that defensive Sunday of aggressive breaking up the play. So I'm really loving what I'm seeing from that pair of defensemen at Northeastern. Every week I look at them, I watch them play. I see them build confidence. I see them build basically just an all-around skill set that, again, will transition into the NHL. These are guys that coaches love, and that's so important. They don't love them just because they're nice guys. They love them because what they bring to the game, their value to the team. So Struble and Harris still dominant. We're going to go across the pond and actually talk about a prospect we haven't spoken about yet on this podcast. Alexander Gordon, recent 6th-round pick of the Canadiens. Now, he has a great shot. That's, if you watch him play, like, this guy has an NHL shot. It's incredible. His release is fantastic. He's got great accuracy. He needs to work on some parts of his game, particularly his skating. Okay. But the results have been very interesting so far. He's actually played in 3 leagues this year. So the KHL, the VHL, and the MHL. That's the equivalent of our NHL, AHL, CHL type of system. He has 29 points, 32 games in the MHL with St. Petersburg. So great results. But as we said earlier, he's going to have to work on some aspects of his game. His skating needs to be improved. And I know it's funny coming from a Dorito warrior like me to say this athlete needs to improve his skating, but it will have to be improved. Now, the good news is that used to be essentially a death knell for players, as if they couldn't skate. I remember pronouncing, and I'm pretty sure I deleted the tweets to look like less of a terrible analyst, but I said once, Mark Stone will never make the NHL because he can't skate. Mark Stone, who is one of the best forecheckers in the NHL, just got named the captain of Vegas, scores more goals than most NHL players. So just goes to show. And truth of the matter was, he wasn't a good skater, but he worked on it. So there are ways to get over that. It's no longer a destruction of your potential to not be a great skater. You can work on it. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, but it won't prevent you from making the NHL. So that's something we're going to want to see with Gordin, is see him work on that skating a little bit. But he's got the shot and he's got the offensive instinct. So to me, and he's got the size too. So interesting prospect, long shot prospect, but he's got a lot of fun tools that could maybe one day transition to the NHL. We're going to jump right into the mailbag. We have another question here asking for Josh Brook, 2nd-round pick, considered an excellent prospect. What happened when he went to Europe? Where will he play this season? And what does his future look like? I'll pull out my crystal ball here for a moment and try to figure out what his future looks like after we talk about what happened in Germany. So obviously Brook, he had a positive test and he had to stay out of action. He had to be quarantined, and he played 1 game. When he came back, he had an assist, played about 25 minutes, and the entire league was put on hold. So that's where Brook is at right now. He's going to play in Laval, most likely, play an important role in Laval. And the key for Josh Brook this year is building confidence. There was probably too much in terms of expectations when it came to Brook. I still think he's got NHL potential, but he just needs to focus up on the task at hand, which is playing key minutes in the AHL. This year, he'll probably have a very important top 4 role. We might see him have a little more special teams usage. So it'll be a really good year to evaluate to see where Brook is at. But I think he just needs a little bit of time. I still consider him a good prospect. And as per usual, we need patience when it comes to prospects. Athletico Habs asks, in the future, which of Kotkaniemi / Suzuki do you see having the best on-ice connection with Cole Caulfield? My answer is yes. I think anyone will have a connection with Cole Caulfield because the advantage here is that this is a guy that finds open ice. And if we go back to the podcast we had with Caulfield, he explained it to us really well. It's that, going in front of the net, doing the Gallagher, it pays off. First of all, you're going to eat a lot more lumber. Your shins are going to be bruised. But there's also value of not being right in front of the net, of finding that open ice. That, you remember the goal Josh Henderson scored against the Toronto Maple Leafs? That's the type of goals that we're seeing from Cole Caulfield, except for he's creating them himself. He's perhaps not playing with the high level of teammates that can set up those plays. So he's really the driving factor. I think a guy like Kotkaniemi will be able to find him that ice. We've seen Kotkaniemi being a lot more aggressive this year, a lot faster. And I do think he has underrated playmaking. So finding open ice is something I think Kotkaniemi will be able to build upon. But on the flip side, Nick Suzuki's creativity is next level. It's like the next generation of creativity. So I think that that'll be important as well in terms of finding open ice. A guy like Suzuki, who has that ability to find the cross ice pass. We've seen it with Tatar so many times on the power play. That'll be really fun for Cole Caulfield. So either or, I think maybe Caulfield would probably mesh a little bit better with Suzuki, but I think they'll both get an opportunity. And it also depends on the other winger, but both of them well suited. And never forget, Caulfield brings that all important element of having that amazing shot and that ability to find the open ice. So as much as those guys will help, he'll help them too. And finally, we have a question from Brian. He asks, if Sean Farrell, our favorite prospect, continues to do well, what do you think the next step in his development will be? And he says, thanks for doing this. Love the podcast. First of all, compliment the podcast and I'll get your question on it. I guarantee you, I'm a sucker for that. Now, the next question, if he continues to do well, what's the next step? He was slated to go to Harvard this year. Obviously, the Ivy League schools have been put on hold right now, their sports programs. So the next step will be going to the NCAA, seeing exactly what skills he needs to work on. It's a gigantic step. You're going to hear a little bit later in our podcast when we're talking to our guest, the differences between jumping from, let's say, the USHL to the NCAA or from the CHL from prep school to the CHL and then the AHL. Gigantic steps. You lose that extra second. You have to work with X's and O's. When we were I spoke to Jaden Struble this summer and I asked him, what was the biggest difference? He said, in the USHL, we didn't really have game plans. We didn't have X's and O's. Once we were in NCAA, that's where the X's and O's really came into play. So he's going to have to learn how to play in a strategy, driven formation. He's going to have to learn how to play within his defensive limits as well, too, because he can't just be scoring goals. You have to take care of your own ice. So huge, big step when he's going to jump to the NCAA. I really think he has the skill to do it because he has that offensive talent. So he's going to get the opportunity. He's going to have to learn how to be much more responsible in his own zone. And he's going to have to learn. It's kind of a re-education of a player once you jump to the NCAA is how to play within that strategy. That's the most important thing. And this goes from, it doesn't matter if it's Farrell, or Caulfield. Just learning to play within a system is a big, big, big deal. You need to know when the puck's there, why am I here? And there's instinct to it, but there's also a lot of learning. So for Sean Farrell, the next step is absorbing as much info as possible. Smart kid, though, with a great shot. So I think he does have an ability, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does quite well in the NCAA. Now, if you have questions about the future of the franchise, don't forget, we'll answer them every week. This week, it's in English, so History in the Making. La semaine prochaine, ça va être en français. L'histoire s'écrit. So don't hesitate to send your questions in English or in French. You can tweet them to the Montreal Canadiens account. Use the hashtag Mark's Mailbag or en français, Demande à Dumont. And you just might get your questions answered on our next episode, especially if you compliment me, just like Brian did. We'll be right back with our guest, none other than Cam Hillis, OHL champion, former captain of the Guelph Storm and Montreal Canadiens prospect who signed his entry-level contract this summer. By now, I'm sure you've seen those gorgeous retro jerseys the Canadiens will be rocking this summer, the blue. I remember at first, I was a little hesitant to love them. I've seen them. I've seen them in person. They are gorgeous, and you can get them. They're on sale right now at tricoloresport.com. Gear up and get yours today. We're speaking with OHL champion, former Guelph Storm captain, and Canadiens third-round pick, Cam Hillis. First off, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the show, Cam.
Thanks for having me on.
You signed your entry-level contract with the Canadiens, and you're actually in the running with a few other talented prospects for that same contract. We all know contracts are limited. How does it feel to get that vote of confidence from the organization?
Yeah, it was a great day signing that contract. I think a lot of blood, sweat, and tears were put into that year, and there's a lot of great players in that draft. So I was just fortunate to be able to sign the contract.
83 points in 62 games in your final year with the Storm, and we can say it was a bounce back year more than just the points. But for those that aren't aware of your style of play, what do you bring to the table? Can you describe yourself as a hockey player?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a competitor out there. I'm smart. I'm not the biggest guy on the ice, but I think I make up for it with how hard I work and try to be a setup guy for my teammates, and I can also score some goals too.
You use that term smart, and it's a term we hear a lot with prospects now. It's actually a term we didn't hear that much back in the day, but it's something that the Canadiens focus on. Can you explain to me what that means? Is it hockey IQ? Is it vision? What does being smart as a hockey player really mean?
Yeah, I think it's all sorts of things. Like you said, the vision, the hockey IQ, just being able to see guys out there, read the plays. I mean, the game's so fast now, you got to think a step ahead of guys. And I think, it'll help you in the long run if you're able to think the game a little faster. And that's something I've always taken pride in, is just, being a student of the game and trying to learn as much as I can and put it forth on the ice too. You've
been through a lot, I'd say, in your junior hockey career. How did you maintain a healthy state of mind throughout the whole thing?
I wouldn't say it was that hard. I mean, I did go through some ups and downs, but every player does. I think just my passion for the game, my love for the game, kept me going each day. And I mean, when you love the game and you want to get better each day, it makes things easier.
As an athlete, it must be rather hard, though, being kept away from the game you love, right? Like, I mean, let's face it, there's nothing harder for an athlete to be in that position where you can't help and you want to, right? So, I mean, how do you maintain that focus in those times where you just you're physically unable to help?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough last stretch here, just not being able to be on the ice as much and, playing the season. But like I said, I think it goes back to just focusing on the end result, taking care of the process and just going by day, just doing what you can, working out. Like I was fortunate, I was able to work out at my gym for the first part of quarantine in my basement. And then my training opened up and was able to stay opened up throughout the remainder of the quarantine. So I was fortunate with that. So, I mean, you got to find like little tidbits where you're a little more fortunate than most people out there. I mean, pandemic is much bigger than hockey. So just, you got to take things with a grain of salt and just make sure that you're grateful for each day.
That's a really interesting approach because, as you say, there are a lot of things that are more important than hockey right now. Let's talk about some of those things. At the end of a long playing career, stuff like charity is the stuff that you'll really remember. And I mean, that's what matters. You've launched the Hillis Foundation. Can you explain the goal and the project and why it's so important for you to be part of it?
Yeah, it was really exciting for me to launch that this year. That's something I've kind of been thinking about the last couple of years. I think it really started when I didn't get to play in our big championship run for the Memorial Cup. And I was talking to Steph Garati. She's our media relations person in Guelph, and she kind of helped me come up with the idea where we can help get as many kids, playing sport that don't get that opportunity. So we've partnered with Jumpstart, with Canadian Tire, and our goal right now is just to help as many kids as we can get into sport and do something they love.
Like you said earlier, we're privileged. And I mean, I'm privileged, you're privileged. Obviously in hockey, it takes a certain level of that privilege to get in now. So how do we, obviously there's foundations like yours, but how do the normal people help out in that respect to get these kids playing again?
Well, like I said, we partner with Jumpstart. So there's links in our social media where you can donate to the foundation. And we've done some initiatives along the way. But we've got some more things planned for this year. It's just been tough with COVID and doing as much as you can. So this year should be more interesting, and hopefully when things settle down with the cases and everything, we can start putting more out there.
You talked about the training during COVID. I mean, they've been different. So did you take any time off? Like some guys, took a week to watch Netflix and and eat Doritos. Some guys hit the gym or tried to find someone's garage. As you said, you had the basement. How was it for you dealing with keeping in shape while not being able to go out, not being able to train, not being around your family too? Because we have to keep that in mind, right? Hockey's a big family. These guys are like brothers to you. You know, the people in the management is like brothers and sisters to you. So, how was your approach to this whole pandemic training, getting ready for taking the biggest step of your life as well?
Yeah, I knew kind of going into this year that it was going to be a big year for me. And I think at the start of quarantining and when the season was canceled, I took about a month off and just kind of let my body recover. And then I was right back at it, training in my basement. And then when my gym opened up, I was able to go back there. And I didn't start skating, I think, until 3 or 4 months in, because the rinks were all closed and there was not a whole lot of access to ice. So that was probably the toughest part. But it got a little tedious at times. But I mean, like I said, you just got to keep pushing through it. And it's nice to kind of almost come full circle here and get the season underway soon. You
didn't hit the ice for 4 months?
Yeah,
or actually longer, right?
Yeah.
One thing you had told me at the rookie tournament in Belleville last year, you had spoken about, you've seen a sports psychologist before, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
What was the value there? And what did you, if you feel comfortable talking about it, listen, I know it's a very personal subject, but I do know that a lot of players, a lot of people, a lot of fans do struggle with mental health. So what was the value of that, not just in sports, but in your everyday life?
I think everyone, goes through different struggles. And I think if you can have someone to talk to and just kind of work on your mental side, that's becoming more prominent in the game nowadays, is, working on your mental skills. So I just use a guide to kind of keep me sharp and see where I can get ahead in the game. And I think it's worked wonders for me over the years. It's still considered a little bit of a taboo subject. Do some of your teammates come up and ask you for a number once in a while, or ask you for tips here and there? It's starting to become mainstream, which is very good, very important. Mental health is so crucial. But again, sometimes it's spoken in whispers. So have you had anyone come up to you and ask you for some tips about how to maybe get some help in that respect? I haven't really personally. I think it's more of a personal matter for some guys. Like, they'll take it on themselves if they're up to it. But I mean, it shouldn't be something that's kind of in the dark. I mean, a lot of guys go through struggles with the game, outside of the game. And it's important that if they want to get help, they can get help. So I think a lot of guys are taking matters into their own hands now and doing something about it. Well, I thank you for being really honest about that, because it's not an easy subject to approach, but as we know, it is crucial. So let's move on. Right now, you're living on your own right now, right? Yeah. So you're in snowy Montreal right now? Yeah, a little bit of a snowstorm today. Okay. Nice. First of all, so you were with the Billet family, right? In Guelph? Yeah. So you're cooking for yourself now, right? Yeah, my mom froze a few meals for me, so I've been lucky the first couple days here, but I might have to start cooking something eventually. Okay, because I was going to ask you, because all hockey guys know how to cook is chicken breasts. I mean, that's all they really like, pasta and chicken breasts. Okay, so mom is covering the meals for now. Yeah, she's got me for now, which I'm lucky. She's a great cook. Okay, yeah, and she has foresight too. She's obviously very wise. What are you going to start doing once mom's food runs out? Because, I mean, I'm already worried for you. So what's the game plan there? Well, honestly, that's something I did during the quarantine a lot too, was cook with my mom. So hopefully I can take a few of the recipes I learned with her and maybe use them this year. So crucial off-ice training with your mother is how that went down. We'll be back shortly, right after this break. History in the Making is brought to you by Tricolore Sport, Montreal's official team store. From lifestyle brands to jerseys and beyond, Tricolore Sport has a style for every sports fan in your life. Head to tricoloresport.com and use coupon code HISTORYCH10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Visit tricoloresport.com today. We're back with Canadiens prospect Cam Hillis. And Cam, I think by now we know things are going to be different in the season, but there's one really interesting aspect is that the Laval Rocket are going to be playing at the Bell Center this year. Now, obviously, you're going to be part of that team. You're going to be an important part of that team. How much do you look forward to
to putting on the jersey? And obviously there's no fans right now, but there's still the banners, there's the history. How much do you look forward to playing at the Bell Center?
Yeah, it's a storied organization. I'm very fortunate to be part of the organization, and I'm really looking forward to getting the season underway. It's been so long, but I think just I'm looking forward to most is just playing a game and being on the ice with the guys.
You've dealt with Joël Bouchard a few times. I know in Belleville, obviously you were playing in a different league for your junior hockey. What's your perception of your coach? And I mean, he's going to watch this, so you got to make sure that it's nice. But hey, listen, we all know that he's a no BS kind of guy. So what are you looking forward to working with Joël Bouchard?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to learning as much as I can. I know he's a great coach, and it'll be my first year playing for him. And I'm just learning. I'm just looking forward to soaking up as much as I can. And they got a great coaching staff, so I'm really looking forward to it.
You chose to go the route after playing for St. Andrews. Now, there used to be a perception with prep schools that you don't draft prep school players. Let's be honest. You let them go in the NCAA and maybe you can sign them. That perception has changed now, but a lot of guys still go the NCAA route from St. Andrews. Why did you choose to go the CHL route?
Originally, I was going to go NCAA, but things changed over my year at St. Andrews. I saw a lot of development in myself, and Guelph had drafted me in the OHL draft. So I just saw a lot of opportunity there, and I knew they wanted me pretty badly. So I thought that it was the right opportunity to move there, and I'm pretty happy with my decision.
Yeah, I'd say so. OHL champion. You ended up as the captain of the Guelph Storm, so not bad at all. What was the biggest difference between playing prep school versus CHL? For example, a lot of the guys that played NCAA, they'll say the USHL is kind of just a practice league. You don't really do X's and O's. I think prep school is a little different, but what's the difference? What was the biggest difference jumping from prep to the CHL?
I think it's more of a pro game style. I learned a lot from my coaches on, the habits you need at the next level. So I think just taking my year at St. Andrews, I learned a ton from Dave Manning and the coaching staff there. And just moving up to Guelph, I think I really took advantage of the opportunity. I worked with some great coaches, and I was really, really fortunate to be with some of the guys there. And obviously, like you said, a championship team. Just seeing that experience and being with the guys and being on the ice and just growing over the last 3 years, I think I was really fortunate with my decision to go to Guelph. You
ended up in Guelph playing with a certain player that now plays for the Montreal Canadiens. Actually, I don't know if you played a ton with him. Were you ever on Nick Suzuki's line?
I think a few shifts just before I got hurt in the last
Who was center? Was it you or Nick?
I think I was playing center for a bit.
Good. You defer to the captain, obviously. Okay. First of all, are you surprised to see, his success, finding success and Suzuki's success in the NHL so quickly?
Not really. I mean, he was a pretty dominant force in the OHL, and he's got the pro game, and he really works hard on his game. So I'm really happy to see him have this much success so far.
What was it like? I know you said it was only a few shifts, but I mean, you practiced with him. You were around him. What was it like being around a player of that caliber? I mean, let's be honest. There's a reason he went in the first round, right? That's an elite talent. So what was it like playing with a player of Nick Suzuki's caliber? Yeah,
he's obviously a special talent. You kind of try to watch him, just pick up on little things he does. And even when I wasn't playing, just kind of watching him throughout the games, he was a guy I was able to look to and kind of find some things in my games and just learn from him. So like I said, he's a great player, and I was happy to play with him.
What do you look forward to most this season? I know you want to get back on the ice, but in terms of your actual development as a player, every player has weaknesses, every player has strengths. What do you want to improve the most in your first year as a professional hockey player?
I think just getting the experience. I mean, it's like I said, it's my first year playing pro, and I don't want to really dip my toe in. I kind of want to make a big splash and learn as much as I can from the coaching staff and just build my game.
What would you say is your greatest strength right now?
I'd say my smarts. I think the game pretty well.
Yeah, and we talked about the intelligence level there. Is that something? It's something you're born with, right? Or is it something you develop? Because it's not just natural intelligence; it's anticipating the play. Like, how do you improve anticipating the play? Is it something that you're born with, or is it something that you can acquire?
I don't know. I think everyone's different. I think I just, I've watched a lot of hockey over the years, and watched different players and how they play the game. And I think just having that knowledge and being a sponge has kind of helped me develop my hockey IQ over the years.
A sponge. I love that. I love that term. And coaches are going to love that term too. So who would you compare yourself to? I know, and that's tough to say, right? But who would you compare yourself to current NHL players right now?
I don't really know if you can compare yourself. I mean, everyone's a different player, but the guy I've watched over the years, last year is Braden Point. He's done a lot in the league. And he just plays a game with a great pace, and he thinks the game really well. So I look up to him too.
When discussing a player like Point, you talked about size earlier. Do you see that as a huge drawback anymore? It used to be if you weren't 6'1", people were ignoring you. Is it really an issue anymore?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are smaller stature in the league now, and they've been able to do some pretty special things. So I don't think it's an issue anymore.
What was it like? One of the questions I get the most is, what's it like being a Canadiens prospect? Now, guys give me different answers, but first of all, what's it like with the fans online? Are you a Twitter, Instagram kind of guy, or?
I've been staying away from the social media, to be honest.
Smart man. Wise beyond your years. Okay, let's talk about the development angle. How often do they call? How often do they talk to your coach? What's it like being a Montreal Canadiens prospect?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great franchise, obviously, the original six, and they're just, a great organization to be a part of. So they've been great with my development, checking in with me all the time and just making sure things are good on my end. So there's no complaints from me, and just happy to hear from the guys a lot. Is it more of a like, hey, how are you doing? Or is it more of a, hey, we noticed you doing this, we'd like you to do this? Like, do they give tips, or do they kind of shy away from that? What, if you can give me the answer? I know it's not always public information, but what type of advice do they give in these phone calls? Like, how does that go? Yeah, I mean, everyone's always watching, so just tips on your game and things they want to see you do better and things you're doing well. So that kind of thing. And is there, obviously there's added pressure but what's it been like in terms of being a Canadiens prospect? And, you say everyone's watching. Do guys check you a little harder? Are guys a little rougher on you when you're playing out there? I know a lot of guys that get drafted say, hey, I get hit a lot more once I get drafted and I'm in the junior ranks. So how's it been in terms of people like targeting you on the ice? Has that been an issue? No, not really for me. I mean, haven't really noticed it too much. It's been just like any other game, to be honest. Like, just you kind of worry about yourself on the ice and help your team win, and that's all you can really focus on. Next year, or this year actually, playing with the Laval Rocket, we talked about your goals and what you want to work on your weaknesses. Is there a point total you want to hit? Is there a role in the organization you want to hit, like a top 6 player, or are you just kind of just there for the experience? You want to take that nice first step. Like, what's your overall game plan at the end of the year? Where do you want to end up? I don't know. I think those are some conversations I'll have with the coaches. I mean, I'm not going to really share much about that. I think I'll keep that between myself and the coaches. But like I said, I'm looking forward to this year and making a big splash. That's the exact same answer as Joel Bouchard would give me. He said that'll be between me and the player. So one of these days I'm going to crack one of you guys, but so far you're doing really good. Okay, I'm going to throw some quick fire questions at you, and I'd love a quick answer. Don't think too much. That's how we get the good answer. So who is your favorite player of all time? I'd say Mitch Marner. Okay. Who? Oh, okay. Then in that case, who was your favorite team growing up? It's a tough question. I think I know which. Go, say again? I don't really have a favorite team, to be honest. I switched all the time growing up. So. Oh, okay. So you were one of those that, were you just following the winners, or were you just following players, or? Yeah, I like the teams that made a big run in the playoffs. So I was usually following them. I was a bandwagon, I'd say, growing up a little bit. Okay. Hey, at least you're admitting it. That's good. So who was your favorite Canadiens player? Have you had I know you missed out on the dynasty years, but was there a Canadiens player that sticks out to you when you think about the Montreal Canadiens? Which player comes to mind? Right now, I think just from the last several years, I think Gallagher comes out. Just he's been a great impact with the team, and a big pillar in the franchise. Did you get a chance to watch their opening game, the Canadiens' opening game, by the way, against the Toronto Maple Leafs? I know you're busy, so it's not always possible, but did you get a chance? Yeah, I did.
what do you think about the current team? I'd love to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, they look great. I mean, they're a strong force out there. They had a great first game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end, but they look really good this year, and I think they're going to be a strong force coming down the road here.
Who would you like to play with most on your line? Like, it could be anyone. It could be going back to Stan Mikita. It could be a guy that's going to get drafted next year. Who would be your ideal left winger and right winger?
I think I'd put Crosby. And maybe I'd put Marner on there too. Two smart
but
guys.
Crosby would be on your wing though, right?
Yeah, or maybe I'll let him take some face-offs. He's pretty good at that.
Okay, you'll be generous and you'll let Sidney Crosby take some face-offs. I like that. Okay. Who would you like to play against the least? And I have a feeling I know the answer here, but which player strikes fear in you when he's coming down the ice? Like, which player are you like, oh, here he comes?
Well, McDavid's the obvious answer, but I think I might say Dustin Byfuglien. When he was in the league, he was a big force, so he's a big body.
So he wouldn't go around you; he would just go through you. Yeah. That's the worry with Dustin. Okay, fair enough. Can you do me a favor and describe Nick Suzuki in 3 words or less?
Intelligent, fast, playmaker.
I like that. I would have gone on and on and on. The fact that you kept it to 3 words was pretty good there. So, and finally, any message for Habs fans who are excited to see you that maybe don't know a lot about you or just anticipating your start? What would you like to say to Montreal Canadiens fans?
Yeah, I know you guys have been patient. It's been a long wait for all of us, but we're excited to get back and get the season going, and we're glad we have you on our side.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cam. I appreciate you joining the show, and good luck this season. Can't wait to see you get going at the Bell Center with the Rocket.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that you take the time to listen to this podcast. Don't forget to rate it, share it, and all those other things people on YouTube tell you to do. And also let us know. Let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear, who you want us to talk to. This is your podcast, Habs fans. So we're going to do exactly what you want within reason. Next week, we're going to be jumping, as per usual, en français. Ça va être l'histoire s'écrit. That'll be our French podcast. And the following week, we're going to jump back into English. So as per usual, français, anglais. This is available wherever you get your podcasts. And like I said, please let me know what you like, what you don't like, and don't forget to rate it. We'll see you next week, everyone. Salut.